음, You're right. 무슨 적응 시간이 10초야. 가만히 있다가 10초가 지나가네. The Lion, the Witch, Wardrobe. Chapter 1. Rocky looks into a wardrobe. Once there was four children whose names were Peter, John, Edmund, and Lucy. This story is about something that happened to them when they were sent away from London during the war because of the air raids. They was sent to the house of an old professor who lived in the heart of the country, 10 miles from the nearest railway station and 2 miles from the nearest post office. He had no wife and he lived in a very rusty house with people called Mrs. Macready, Ready, and three servants. Their names were Ivy, Margaret, and Betty. But they did not come into the story much. He himself was a very old man with shirazi, shoji, 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 white hair which grew over most of his face, so as well as on his head, and they liked him almost at once. But one the first when he came out to meet them at the front door, he was so odd looking that Lucy, who was the youngest, was a little afraid of him and Adam, Admut and had to keep on pretending he was blowing his nose to hide it. As soon as they had said good night, to the professor and gone upstairs on the first night, the boys came into the girls' room and they all talked it over. We've fallen on our pit and said Peter. This is going to be perfectly splendid. This old chap will let us do anything we like. Like, hmm, I think he's an old dear. I think he's an old dear, said Susan. Oh, come off it, said Edmund, who was tired and pretending not to be tired, which always made him bad tempered. Don't go on talking like that. Don't go on talking like that. Like what? Said Susan. And anyway, it's in bed, trying to talk like mother, said Edmund. And who are you to say when I'm to go to bed? Go to bed yourself. Hadn't we all better go to bed? Said Rosie. There's sure to be a row if we are here to talking here. No, there won't, said Peter. I tell you, this is the sort of house. No one's going to mind what we do. Anyway, we won't hear us. It's about 10 minutes walk from here down to the dining room, and any amount of stair and passage in between. What's the noisy noise? What's the noise? Said Lucy suddenly. It was a far larger house than he had ever been in. Door leading into empty room was beginning to make her feel a little creepy. It's only a bird, silly, said Edmund. It's an owl, said Peter. This is going to be a wonderful place for bird. I shall go to bed now. I say, let's go and explore tomorrow. You might find anything in a place like this. Did you see those mountains as we came along? And the woods. There might be an eagle. There might be a snake. And there will be hawk. Bad girls, said Rooker. Lucy, foxes. Foxes, said Edmund. Rabbits, said Sudan. Well, when next morning came, there was a heavy rain pouring, so thick that when you looked out, so thick that when you looked out of the window, you could see neither the mountains nor the woods nor even the stream in the garden. Of course, it would be raining, said Edmund. They had just finished it. They had just finished their breakfast with the professor and they were upstairs in the room he had set for, apart for them. A long room with two windows looking out in one direction and to in another. Do stop grumbling. Do stop grumbling at. Do stop grumbling at, said Susan. 10 to 1, it'll be clear up in an hour or so. And in the meantime, in the meantime, we are pretty well off. There's a wireless and lot of books. Not for me, said Peter. I'm going to explore in the house. Everyone agreed to this, and that was how the adventure began. It was a sort of house that you never seemed to come to the end of, and it was full of expected. Mm. And it was full of expected place. The first few doors they tried led only into spare bedroom, as everyone had expected that they would do. But soon they came to a very long room full of pictures, and there there they found a suit of armor, and after there was a room all hung with green, with a harp in in one corner, and then came 3 steps down and 5 steps up, and then a kind of little upstairs hall, and a door that led out on the onto a balcony, and then a whole series of rooms that led into each were lined with books, most of them very old books, and some bigger than a Bible in a church. And shortly after that, they uh, looked, they looked into a room that was quite empty, except for one big wardrobe. The shot that was a looking glass in the door. There was nothing else in the room at all except a dead blue bottle on the windowsill. Nothing there, said Peter, and they all trooped out again, all except Lucy. And she stayed behind because she thought it would be worthwhile trying to door and the wardrobe, even though she felt most sure that it would be rocket. To her surprise, it opened quite easily, and two mouse well dropped out. Looking into the inside, she saw several coats hanging up, mostly long coats. There was nothing Lucy liked so much as the smell and feel of pearl. She immediately stepped into the wardrobe and got in among the coats and rubbed her face against them, leaving the door open, of course, because she knew that it is very foolish to shut the uh, door open, shut once into any wardrobe. Soon she went to have in the pound that was there was a second row of coats hanging up behind the first one. It was almost quite dark, dark in there, and she kept her arm stretched out in front of her so as not to dump her face into the back of the wardrobe. She took a step further in, then two or three steps, always expecting to feel would work against the tip of her finger. But she couldn't appear it. This must be a simply enormous wardrobe. So Lucy going step huddle in and pushing the soft fold of the cot aside, room for her. And she noticed that there was something crunching under her feet. I wondered, is the morsel? She thought, stooping down to peel it with her hand. But instead of peeling the hard, smooth of the floor of the wardrobe, she piled something soft, powdery, and extremely cold. This is very queer, she said, and went on a step or two further. puddle. Next moment, she found that what was rubbing against her face, and hands was no longer soft fur, but something hard and rough and even prickly. Prickly. Mhm. Why, it is just like branches of trees. Exclaimed Lucy. Lucy, exclaimed Lucy, and then she saw that there was a light ahead of her, not a few inches away, where the back of the wardrobe ought to have been. But a long way off, something cold or soft was pouring on her. A moment later, she found that she was standing in the middle of a wood at night time with snow under her feet and snow flexibly through the air. Respect a little pretend pretend. She felt very inquisitive, inquisitive, inquisitive and excited as well. She looked back over her shoulder, and there, between the dark tree trunk, she could still see the open doorway of the wardrobe, and even catch a glimpse, 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 glimpse of the empty room from it from which she had set out. She had, of course, left the door open, for she knew that it is a very silly thing to shut oneself into a wardrobe. It seems to be still daylight there. I can always get back if crunch over the snow and through the wood toward the other right. In about 10 minutes, she reached it and found it was reinforced. As she stood it, wondering why there was a reinforced of pit coming toward her, and soon after that a very strange person stepped out from among the tree into the right of the ramposter. He was only a little taller than Lucy herself, and he carried over his head an umbrella white with snow. From the waist upward, he was like a man, but his legs were shaped like a god's. The hair on them was glossy black, and instead of pit, he had got hoops. He almost had a tail, but Lucy did not notice this at first because it was neatly cut off over the arm of the arm, and that hold the held the umbrella so as to keep it from trailing in the snow. He had a red woolen muffler around his neck, and his skin was rather reddish too. He had a strange but pleasant little pace, with a short, pointed beard, beard and curly hair, and out of the hair, two horns, one on each side of his forehead, one on one of his hand, as I have said, had two umbrellas, and the other arm. In the other arm, he carried several brown paper parcels. All with the poster and the snow, it looked just as if he had been doing his Christmas shopping. He was a palm, and when he saw Lucy, he gave such a start of surprise that he dropped all his hustle. Goodness gracious me! Exclaimed Tom. Tom. Chapter 2. What was she found there? Good evening, said Lucy, but the pun was so busy picking up its parcel that at first it did not reply. When it had finished, it made her a little bow. Good evening, said Pond. Excuse me, I don't want to be inquisitive, but should I be right in thinking that you are a daughter of Eve? My name's Lucy. She, not quite understanding him. But you are, forgive me, you are what they call a girl, said Pam. Of course, I'm a girl, said Lucy. You are in fact human? Of course I'm human, said Lucy, still a little puzzled. To be sure, said Pam. How stupid of me! But I've never seen a son of Adam or a daughter of Eve before. I'm delighted. That is so. That is to say, and then it stopped as if it had been going to say something it had not intended, but had remembered it in time. Delight. Mhm. I went on. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Thomas. I'm very pleased to meet you, Mr. Thomas, said Lucy. And may I ask, Lucy, daughter of Eve, said Mr. Thomas, how you have come into Narnia? What's that? Said Lucy. This is the land of Narnia, said Pom. Where we are now. Oh, that rides between the ramp post and the great castle of Seer, Seer, parable, parable, Seer, parable on the eastern sea. I knew you had come from the wild woods of the west. I got in through the wardrobe in the separate, spare room. In the spare room, said Lucy. Uh-oh, said Mr. Tumners in a rather melancholy voice. If only I had looked, looked harder at geography when was a little pound. I should know thought to know all about those strange countries. It is too late now. But they aren't country at all, said Lucy, almost rapping. It's only just back there and rest. I'm not sure. It is summer there. Meanwhile, said Mr. Thomas, it is winter in Nonia and has been for ever so long, and we shall both catch catch a cold. We shall both catch cold if we stand here talking in the snow. Daughter of Eve, daughter of Eve from the far end of spare room, where eternal summer risen around the bright city of Wardrobe. How would it be if you came and had tea with me? Thank you very much. Very much. Mr. Tumnus, said Lucy, but I was wondering whether I ought to be getting back. It's only just around the corner, said the Tom, and there will be a roaring fire, and the toast and sardines and cake. Well, it's very kind of you, said Lucy, but I shan't be able to stay long. You will you will take my arm, daughter of Eve, said Mr. Tumnus. I shall be able to hold the umbrella of both of you. That's all. That's the way. Now off we go. And so Lucy found herself looking through the wood um, with his strange creature, as if they had known one another all their lives. They had not gone far, far before they came to a place where the ground became rough and there were rocks all about the little hills up and little hills down. At the bottom of one small valley, Mr. Tomnos turned suddenly aside as if he were going to walk straight into the unusually large rock. But at the last moment, Lucy found he was leading her into the entrance of a cave. As soon as they were inside, she found herself blinking in the light of a wood fire. Then Mr. Tomner's stoop, stoop, stooped, stooped and took a flaming piece of wood out of the fire with a neat little pair of tongs and lit a lamp. Now we shan't be wrong. He said and immediately put a kettle on. Lucy thought she had never seen in a nicer place. It was a little dry, clean cave of reddish stone with the cup head on the floor and two little chairs, one of me and one of a friend, said Mr. Thomas, and a table and a dresser and a mantelpiece over the fire, and above that a picture of an old palm with gray beard. In one corner there was a door which Lucy thought must be read, read to Mr. Tumnus, Tumnus's, Tumnus's bedroom. And on one wall was a shelf full of books. Lucy looked at these while he was sitting out the tea thing. They had the they had the title like the life and the letters of Silenus and nymphs and their way of their ways or men, monks and gamekeeper, gamekeepers, gamekeepers study in popular resident and is man a mice. Now, daughter of Eve, said Palm, and really it was a wonderful tea. There was a nice brown egg, rightly boiled, of each of them, and then sardines on toast, and then buttered toast, and then toast with honey, and then a sugar-topped cake. And then she was tired of eating. The palm began to talk. Wonderfully his to tale of life in the forest. He told about the midnight dance and how the nymphs who live in the well and dried, dried, dried in the tree came out to dance with the palm about long hunting parties after the milk. White Stacy give you wishy if you caught him about feasting and treasure seeking with the wide red dwarf in deep mind. And caverns, cavern vanish the forest floor. And then about summer when the woods will be green and old Sirenus on his pet donkey would call and then the stream would run with the wine instead of water, and the whole forest to jollification for weeks on end. Uh, Not that it isn't always winter now. He added gloomily, then to cheer himself up. He took out from its case on the dresser a strange little flute that looked of straw and began to play. And the tone he played made Lucy want to cry and laugh and dance and go to sleep all at the same time. Must have when she shook herself, when she shook herself and said, "Oh, Mr. Thomas, I'm so sorry to stop you, and I do love that tone, but really I must go home. I only meant to stay for a minute or for a few minutes. It's no good now, you know," said the pound, lying down its fruit and shaking its head at her very sorrowfully. 이렇게 한 번 더. Laying down its fruit and shaking its head at her very sorrowfully. Ta-da!